be taking notes as we go, so it's not that we're doing other work. We're just collecting feedback to give you next week. All right. So the first question I want to ask you, Jordan, is for you to tell me about what you were doing before Europe, how you heard about the program, and what caused you to apply.
Okay. So what I was doing before this, I grew up in Las Vegas. I always had a love for film and photography. I did a couple semesters at FSU in their film and photography program. Ended up dropping out, and I made a production company with my friend Ryan, and we basically, I was living in Florida at the time. We handled commercials for big companies. We did music videos, basically video production, which in a way kind of prepared me for tech, and I've always had a love for tech because a lot of the applications that I know now I learned through my photography experience. Photoshop, for instance, would be one. I learned how to use the cloud services very proficiently because I needed to upload my photos somewhere. One of the last gigs I worked with was with this company called IHG, and I worked closely with their web development because I needed the pictures just right so they would fit on the website. I heard about Europe through my aunt, actually, and it actually she had to drag me here because I didn't necessarily believe that it was what they said it was. I thought there was a catch, but she dragged me down here, said, "Look, this is for real." And tech was always something that I've had a passion for. So yeah, I applied, and now I'm hoping the holy grail would be something that intertwines tech and film or photography, kind of like an Instagram or YouTube. I think they've really peaked and topped the game when it comes to juxtaposing those two.
Could you tell us more about why you want to work in tech?
Oh, yeah. I feel like tech brings people together. I love tech because, number one, it's the future. I think that we put a lot of weight on tech. It's obviously where things are going, so I would love to be an influencer of that. And number two, I love the people in tech. I love the opportunity to network. I've always worked really well in a team. I also work really well alone because I grew up an only child, but I love working with the team. So yeah, that's like just to be able to influence and change the outcome of my future. I feel like that's why I want to work in tech.
Thank you.
Great. Jordan, what has been your biggest challenge or growth area during L&D, and what have you done to overcome it?
One of my biggest challenges probably would just be remembering assignments and just because there's a lot coming at you at a really fast pace. And one of the ways that I've combated that is I've reached out, I've asked for help, I've learned how to ask for help. And so I get with Harjinder every week. I've utilized a planner, which I never really done. And I'm utilizing cloud services a lot too. You know, I have my calendar uploaded to my phone and it syncs to my laptop. So utilizing those services have really helped me overcome just staying on top and prioritizing things.
Which was the job description that you decided on?
I wanted to go into networking.
Okay, perfect. Can you tell us why you would be a strong candidate for that role?
Number one, I've been tinkering with servers since I was like 10. I've always had a passion for networking. One of my friends over at IRC chat, when I was like 10, 13 years old, we poked around in networks. So it's just something I've always had a passion for but never really pursued because I didn't really necessarily know how to get my foot in the door. But I've even gone so far as to connect with other people the other people that are in Europe who enjoy networking, like Corey, and we get together. We get together with Jerry and just do exercises outside of Europe. So I'm trying to prepare myself so I can complete certifications later. So regardless of whether I get into that track or not, it's still something I'd like to pursue.
Okay, thanks.
What is your greatest strength in the workplace?
I feel like my greatest strength is I'm very personable. I I bring people together. I'm a great networker. One of my bigger roles was a producer on for the NCAA Final Four, and all that job is bringing teams together and working with people and logistics. So I'd probably go with that.
Can you tell us about a time when you were in a leadership position and you faced a challenge? So what was the challenge and how did you deal with it?
Okay. On the Final Four shoot, I had contracted 30 cameras to be brought onto set the day that we needed to shoot. 2 days before, I got a call saying that the cameras weren't going to be available. And this is like my first big shoot. I've got everyone looking at me, and so there was a lot of pressure on me. And for a while, for about 10 minutes, I threw a pity party and was like, oh, how could they do this to me? But I really utilized the growth mindset because I started reaching out to some of my college buddies, and I started reaching out to rental houses that were 20, 30 miles away, but I knew people who could get them to me. So lo and behold, within 2 days, I gathered 28 cameras, and we could spare the 2, luckily, all from just friends and colleagues. So I really learned the power of my network and how that can benefit me in a time of need. And I've just learned to ask for help, which is something that growing up wasn't necessarily so easy for me.
Great, thanks.
What do you plan to do in your first week at internship to get off on the right foot?
Network with my colleagues, for sure. I want to be absolutely clear what my responsibilities are, so working closely with my manager, whoever my point person is on that project, to know exactly what my responsibilities are. And probably just making sure that before I go into internship, I am proficient and know everything that I'm going to need to know. So do a quick review of everything that I feel like I would need going into this job.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Have you had an experience where you failed the first time, but then you succeeded later? And what was the difference between the first attempt versus the second attempt?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of things. There was a photo shoot. I had a wedding shoot. It was my first wedding shoot, and I bombed it. What's the word I'm looking for? I oversold myself. I didn't come in very prepared. I overexposed a lot of the shots, and I ended up giving them, I ended up giving the work off to someone else, and basically giving them their money back, because that's the ethical thing to do. And I feel really bad that I, ruined this. It was a special moment for you guys, and I feel like I ruined this for you. But I got them their pictures back, and so I got together with another wedding photographer, and he gave me some tips, and I realized I was overexposing my camera, like way too much, especially for the setting that we needed. So I fixed some settings on my camera, and I started taking really beautiful shots the next time around. So yeah, I guess Insanity's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So what I changed was the exposure so I could get it right the next time.
Great. Describe for me a conflict that you've experienced in the workplace and tell me how you handled it.
Conflict in the workplace is when I worked at Macy's. I worked at Macy's for a short period of time. I had a manager, and then I kind of had like a sub manager, so to speak. Like it was more, they were on the same level as me when it came to a job wise, but he was still above me, and he handled all the scheduling, and he would always get my schedule wrong, and I would always, basically, I built an animosity towards him because he always got my schedule wrong, and I always had to go above him to ask my manager what my real schedule was, but then that made him look bad because he's like, why are you going above me? There's escalation protocol, so to speak. So that was a time that I had a conflict, but honestly, I ended up pulling him to the side and being like, look, man, I really don't like to go above you, but I really need to get my schedule right because I have other things going on outside of this. So my ability just to pull them aside and have a one-on-one conversation with them, I think really swayed the situation.
Great.
So when you're working on a team of, say, 4 people, what is the role that you would take on?
I'd love to say leader, but when we did the project where we were all like, it was like we were all deserted. It was like a plane. We were all deserted. You remember that? The survivor one. I saw that I overpowered the conversation a lot, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that aspect of myself. Mm-hmm. So I've really been working hard to convert on that, and a lot of people have told me that I've done a great job. So I guess I'd love to say leader, but I'd love to take more on a support role. Because I like seeing that aspect of myself more. I think that I help the team more when I sit back, listen to everyone's ideas, put them together in my head, and then give my opinion about how I can, or how we may be able to twist the situation.
So I want you to imagine that you are working at a tech company for your internship, and your manager has given you a high-profile project, meaning that some executives are going to see the finished product. Unfortunately, you have no idea where to start, and the skills that you're going to need to complete this project are not ones that you learned at Year Up. Mm-hmm. How do you handle this situation?
I've been in situations where I've tried to BS the project, and it hasn't come out the way I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I've learned just to be honest about the situation, and try to get people who do know. If I don't know them immediately, maybe I can find someone who can teach me, or maybe I can find someone I can bring onto the project so we can give the boss what he needs, so to speak. So honesty is always just my go-to, and then next thing is trying to find a way that I can get it done, because nothing's impossible.
So what would you, when you say you try to find a way to get it done?
I would utilize my network. I would go to someone who knew the project better than me, who knew the applications, and either teach me, tutor me, or bring him on to the project.
Describe a system that you use to stay organized. So how do you keep track of deadlines or deliverables, things like that?
I've got my paper planner, which I then convert into my Gmail calendar, which I then put on the cloud, so it beams to my laptop, it beams to my phone, it beams to whatever other device I'm using at the time, my tablet, and I set reminders. Sometimes it's a day reminder, some days it's a 15-minute reminder. Standard is usually 2 days before, 1 day before, 15 minutes before, and by then I've usually got it turned in. So I utilize a paper planner and bring it on to digital format.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to move on to the tech scenario. Okay.